for more on Hong Kong. Let's bring in Jamil Anderlini. He's the Asia editor for the Financial Times. Jamil, we just heard Matt Bradley talk about the fact that the protesters aren't really talking about the extradition bill anymore. So what do they want now? And what do you think at this point could placate them in lieu of any sort of military intervention?
Yeah, I think so. If you listen to the protesters, what they're asking for, they have 5 demands. They want to rescind the label of riot for everything that's happened up until now. They'd like Carrie Lam to step down, the chief executive of Hong Kong. They'd like her to step down. They'd like the extradition bill to be removed entirely. And they'd really like democracy in Hong Kong. It's a bit of a long shot for them these days. But I think the government has mishandled this whole affair incredibly badly, the Hong Kong government, with Beijing's backing, it has to be pointed out. I think if the Hong Kong government at this point made some concessions, some sort of amnesty for people who've damaged property, not necessarily for people who've injured anyone, but amnesty for anyone who's damaged property, rescind the bill entirely, and to instigate a truly independent inquiry into everything that's gone on so far, I think that would largely placate the mass of the people in Hong Kong, the more moderate people in Hong Kong. And then, frankly, if they just shut down the mass transit railway in the evening, that would make it impossible for most of these protesters to even turn up at the protests that we're seeing at the moment.
Well, it would seem, Jamil, in terms of moving toward democracy, that Beijing is actually moving in the other direction with the buildup of PLA troops at the border. So what is the level of desire by Beijing to actually deliver on any of those principles? And if they don't do that, how much longer could we expect these protests to go on?
I think if the Hong Kong government isn't seen to make some concessions at this point, then the protests are definitely going to continue. The Hong Kong government and the Beijing authorities seem to be gambling that if they raise the level of violence, if the police act in a more brutal way on a steadily increasing level of violence, with a steadily increasing level of threat from across the border, or the threat of invasion from across the border, that will scare most Hong Kong people into staying home. I just don't think that they're correct in that, and in that gamble. I think, frankly, and I wrote this in my column, which will come out tomorrow, I actually believe that the chances of the PLA or some sort of Chinese military or paramilitary force coming across the border greater than 50% now. And that would be obviously a disaster for Asia's premier financial center.
Jamil, even if things do calm down in the next month or so, looking further out, medium and long term, how much damage has this done in the minds of Hong Kong citizens to the image of the place where they live and they feel and want to call home? Does this lead to a more mobile workforce, whether it's from the employees or the company's perspective? Will places like Singapore be looking at this and hoping to welcome more companies and workers?
The damage to Hong Kong, or that has already happened, is incalculable, I think. Certainly, when you talk to people based here in Hong Kong who have dual nationality, which is a very large number of them, very large proportion, many of them are already looking at their exit strategy. And Singapore, interestingly, has been quite quiet. Apparently, the Singapore government has issued orders to civil servants not to gloat over the fate of Hong Kong at the moment, because Singapore is the obvious place for many people in this region to go. Obviously, though, if you're looking for a vibrant democracy with all the freedoms that are supposed to be guaranteed in Hong Kong, Singapore's not necessarily the place you would be going.
Hong Kong's chief executive says the economic fallout already worse than the 2003 SARS outbreak, so we'll watch that. Jamil, thank you very much. Jamil Anderlini from the Financial Times.